Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Ash. Wanted to shoot out a quick video for you on having the right mindset for success. So whether you're an entrepreneur or not, doesn't matter. The goal is to help you to have the right mindset. So there's actually three fundamentals I'm going to go over with you into developing the right mindset. So I want you to do is, you want to take out a piece of paper, take some notes, because in the next few minutes, you're going to learn and how to have that right mindset, which will help you overcome any obstacles that you're facing and achieving goals that you have in your life. So let's go over a couple of things here. I want you to take a piece of paper and let's go over a triangle we're going to draw up here. And there's three fundamentals I'm going to go over with you. Number one is what we call is having the right attitude. Now, you probably see this in a lot of the videos, is to having the right attitude. Well, of course, attitude is important, but we always get caught up with the day-to-day activities. We hear the news, we hear a lot of junk on the outside, and our attitude goes down. So there's basically a couple of key things you need to develop that attitude. And number one thing is to develop faith. And that stands for F, okay? And in order to have that faith, you got to have a desire. So we're going to go over these three fundamentals. Desire, okay? Now, one of the books that you probably heard, many of you that are already in personal development, is Think and Grow Rich. And he talked about these three fundamentals. And I'm going to go over on each of them what they mean. So in the first chapter of the book talked about having a desire, actually having a real red hot or white, as they call it, desire. And how do you develop that desire? I want you to imagine yourself that you're in a desert island, okay? There's no water out there. Okay, it's not even it's a desert. Okay, and you are thirsty. I mean, it's 120 degrees. You're almost dying of thirst. Okay, your desire for H2O is up there. I mean, you're thinking about water all day long, right? You're not thinking about a car to get or a Lamborghini. I mean, you couldn't care less about that. Even if you had the money, you wouldn't buy that. Okay, you'd probably buy a glass of water. Somebody approaches you and says, "Here's a glass of water. It's going to cost you $150." For a glass of water, and you have the money, let's say, and you're about to die. Now, you're not going to negotiate the price of that glass of water. Why? It's because you have a deep down desire for that. So one of the key fundamentals of success is you have to develop a hunger for what you want. Now, most people, they get complacent with what they have, and they get used to getting what they always had in the past. So developing that hunger, that's something you have to have inside of you. And how do you get that? Well, one of the ways to get it is to think about, if things don't change in the next 5 to 10 years from where you are at in life right now, things might get more expensive, financially be more difficult to live, all right? What would happen? You would be in a worse situation. So here's an example of how to develop that desire. Just suppose you're in New York and you want to go to London. And right now, you're headed in this direction when you should be headed in this direction. And you'll end up in maybe Spain, okay, whatever that place is. But you're heading in that direction, and your goal is to end up in London. Well, if you keep doing what you're doing in the past, guess what's going to happen? You're going to end up in the wrong location, not where you want to be. Now, watch this. If you say to yourself, well, I'll do it later, procrastination sets in, right? And this is what happens. Let's say you're over here. 10 months later, you decide, oh, you know what? It's getting to me. I got to get back on track. I got to lose my weight. I got to make more money. I got to do this. By that time, to go back from here to here, look at the distance you have to go through. Now, which is a longer distance? From here to here, a straight line, or going from this position? It's going to take you more time, more money to do it that way. So I remember a commercial way back in the 80s used to say that it was a Fram oil filter commercial. He says, you can pay me now, and they would show you the oil filter or the oil filter or whatever they were selling for like $5-6, whatever it was. And they would move away, and then he would show an engine of a car, or you can pay me later. So do you see the contrast? When you have that desire to reach your goal now, you're not going to keep doing what you're doing. You're going to make that change now. So therefore, it's important to vividly imagine your goal every single day. So the more you focus on that goal, just like when you're in that desert, you focus on that glass of water. Okay, the more you think about it, say, how can I get it? You're going to search for it. You're going to do what it takes. You're going to dig a well or something. You're going to keep doing what you have to do. Your motivation will keep getting higher and higher until you get that glass of water. Think about it. So what happens to most people to get to their goal? They just don't have that desire, right? So once you have that desire, what happens next? Now this word here actually was attitude, but it also stands for action. Okay? And this one stands for faith. Now, let's say you're in a place that you don't have any faith, but if you develop the action, faith comes in. Sometimes we're not sure that something's going to work for us, like a business or a sales call that you're about to make. You're not sure what the results are. But if you have that desire, saying, I know what the outcome's going to look like, and you focus on the outcome that you want, which is here, not going down here, guess what happens? You develop the skill sets to get it. And here's the key point. It's more important to figure out why you want to reach that goal than rather than figuring out how to reach that goal. Now, most people would say, hey, Ash, you got to figure out how to do it before you can do it. No, wrong. Because when you develop that why you want to reach that goal, okay, whatever your goal is, your desire is up there. You will figure out the way. Because when you have desire, you create action, you create faith. Because what happens is faith is like the foundation of your success. It's like the foundation of a house. Without having faith, without having that belief that you can actually do it. Now, how do you create that belief? Well, you look at other people who've already achieved it. That's one way to create belief. You look at the tools and the necessary ingredients that's needed to create that belief. So if I was to say to you, can you open this combination lock? I hand you a lock. You would have zero faith that you can open it. Why? Because you don't know the combination number. Now, guess what? If I showed it to you and I opened it for you and I gave you the combination number, your faith in opening it yourself goes from 0 to like 99%. Doesn't it? Because you know the tools, you have the knowledge of what it takes to open that combination lock. Same thing in the goal that you're trying to achieve. You got to know the tools you're using. And the biggest thing is, now, first of all, why would you want to open that lock? There's your why. The why is very important because when you know why you want to do certain things, you'll take action. Why is because if you don't take action, you end up in the wrong place where you should be. Remember, this was our target. There's two things that motivate people: fear and pleasure. Okay? Fear is false evidence appearing real. You probably heard that before. But also fear, you're in a position of weakness because you're in a position of worriness. Now, if you can worry, you can visualize. I'll tell you that. If you can worry, you can visualize. So why not visualize something positive? So when you worry about something, let's say somebody doesn't come home, your loved one. What do? You start worrying about, I wonder what happened. I hope they didn't get in an accident. Guess what happened? You draw those kind of feelings, you end up being in a bad place. But if you start focusing on something more positive, saying, what would it be like as if you already achieved your goal? What it would be like if you already lost that weight? What would be some things it enables you to do? What would be some things it enables you get out of your way? What would be some of the activities that allows you to do? And also how other people perceive you. If you start focusing on that, guess what happens? Your activity would go up and your attitude would change. And the biggest problem we face here, and this is another term called discipline. Discipline, I want you to write this down. Discipline is cheaper than regret. It costs more to be in a position of regretfulness than to be disciplined. Think about it. If you discipline in the morning to get up early, to exercise, do the things you actually have to do, or do the things you have to do in your job or in your business, and you discipline it, even though there is pain. But guess what? If you don't do it and you visualize what would happen down the road if things didn't change, that regret. So let's say by the time you retire and you don't do the things you necessarily had to do now, and you look back in your life, you say, you know what? I wish I could have done that. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. It's not going to work. So I want you to take this action. Change your shoulds, what you should do, into musts. Should you lose weight, if that's the case? Change that to must lose weight. Should you make more money? Change that to must make more money. So the more desire you go back, it all starts from here. You will develop the action and you'll develop the faith, and it goes back and forth. This starts to build a momentum. So hopefully you got a lot out of this. Just hit a share button. Hopefully you pass it on to somebody else. All the best to you. See you next time.